the kind of thing that's been going back and forth in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I've been questioning if I might be agender or genderless. If I might have changed gender along life, since my zucchini is a romantic lingo. So my zucchini, my partner, quote unquote, is gender fluid. So I think I can say I'm quite familiar with what changing one's gender means.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of thing that I've been struggling with.
Is trying to grasp the concept of gender fluidity?
Oh no, it's question if it's fair for me to say that I'm unsure of whether or not I have a gender, or if I'm really genderless or agender, as some people say.
Okay.
I've been thinking if it's something like I never saw the word agender and thought, hey, that's me. But I never seen any other gender and thought, hey, that's me. I'm wondering if that's what being gender feels like or not. That's what the tough part, the obstacle I'm not going through.
Right. And I think it's important, at least on this show, we don't look at gender as boxes that someone fits into. We look at it as a very wide spectrum. And I don't like to say that, male, female is kind of the terms that we assign to different ends of the spectrum. That doesn't mean, though, that you can't be somewhere completely in the middle or slightly to one side or slightly to the other. These are just labels that we have given certain characteristics. But whatever you want to identify as, that is who you are. That is what you are.
Yeah, I mean, to put it into kind of nerd terms, the bimodal bell curve is kind of the best way of looking at it, right? That it's not just that everybody is more or less in the middle and some people are on the tails, but that there are more closely two primary aspects. Most folks are going to be mostly in the middle of either being male or female, man or woman, but those tails never actually touch the end of the line, which is
they just touch each other,
right?
They just come back around to the
which is kind of a overly complicated way of saying that there is no one specific gender, that there's not two specific genders. I made the comment on this show before that there is a different gender for every person on the planet, that there's some 7 billion odd genders. And I know that got a lot of pushback, and I actually would challenge anybody to do the homework and to read about it and to recognize that I really stand by that comment. That being said, when it comes to understanding your own gender, there are two things I would encourage you to remember. One is that it matters, but it doesn't. As somebody who has been ostracized and criticized, I feel like I've worked really hard for my identity, for my labels, for my adjectives. They're very important to me, and I wouldn't listen to anybody who tells me that they don't matter. At the same time, they matter because I say that they matter. Nobody gets to tell me how important they are, what they should be, how meaningful they are. And if I feel like, switching, not necessarily that it's a choice necessarily to just pivot, but that I do have some flexibility, some fluidity to that, and that's okay. So the most important thing is remembering that it matters, but only to you, only to the degree that it matters to you. And then the second thing is that get to a library, read a book, find some great materials about these topics, because there's no short answer for you. It's going to take a lot of experiencing 10,000 different options before you start to go, well, that's definitely not it, and that's definitely not it. That seems kind of right, but the more I look at it, less and less, and okay, so this is it over here. And one place I would encourage you to start is Understanding Your Gender by Meg John Barker. It's a great book I've recommended on the show before and worth checking out. But yeah, ultimately, it's up to you. It's a journey that you can either take or not take. If you want to go and learn about astrophysics or about how to crochet or how to bake a great pie, you go out and do that exact thing. If you want to learn to understand your gender, that's a choice that you're making. It's not necessarily an obligation. You do have permission to just say, I will never understand, all of Stephen Hawking's work. And that's okay. You may not ever fully grasp or wrestle with your gender, but if you choose to, I think that it's a noble pursuit and something worth looking into.
I feel so uninformed now. I mean, really. I got to say, one of the things, Joule, that really kind of made me think was the way I understood male, female, gender fluid, and those different choices was that what you were doing was picking, what you wanted out of what is available. But it sounds like what you're describing is picking nothing, and I don't even know what that looks like, because if we live in a society that has genderized freaking everything, then at that point, I mean, even our language gets to a point that's gendered.
Our language, our duct tape, our handguns,
everything.
Our hammers, everything comes in pink or blue or camo or, these stereotypically gendered things.
And so I guess now I have questions for both of you. because what if, I'm not going to take, however many years of classes to understand this, but I consider myself male. But at the same time, I enjoy things and definitely have some characteristics that are not classically viewed as male. And so I don't feel like I need to take a different title. So it's self-applied. And if it's self-applied, then are there 10,000 genders, or is that just a nice way of saying it's a spectrum? You can pick any single point along an infinite line and claim that as yours, because it doesn't sound like there's any definitive, and they don't have their own names, right? Me, I am, self is where you wind up, and in that way, there's just as much as there are people. But am I wrong about that? Dude, I am bursting with questions now.
I think you're getting close.
For sure. And I don't want to get away from Joel and his question, but I think I would ask you, what genre of band is Queen?
Rock and roll.
Okay, but AC/DC is rock and roll.
It's Queen.
But are Queen and AC/DC the same genre? Kind of, but kind of not.
Again, we create boxes so that we can put labels on them and categorize all the things in the world.
And those adjectives are valuable because you're not going to hear Queen on the same station as like an actual opera station.
Right.
Actually, you'd be wrong.
Well,
Freddie Mercury wrote an opera and it was fucking amazing. Obviously, you gotta.
Anyway.
That's right. Dude.
But you would hear AC/DC on the same classic rock.
You would not hear AC/DC on the same as classical with Bach and Chopin.
Right, exactly. And so, what genre do they fit? We use these adjectives to vaguely describe, and there's value in that because it does help to categorize. And I like to identify as a guy that has value for me, but not 100%, 1,000 accurate,
Maybe? I don't know, because if you're the one who's defining it, then it is 100,000% accurate.
Well, then let me ask you both this. You both identify as male, yes?
Yeah.
Did you pick that? Or was that assigned to you and you just learned to accept that is what you are?
That's what I was always told I am, and I was raised with expectations to meet certain criteria, some of which I met, some of which I didn't, but I don't consider myself less of a man for not meeting things.
You were raised into a particular religion, and you accepted it more or less without challenge, and then at a certain age, you decided that, this actually does not fit me, this does not suit me, this is not accurate, this is not my worldview.
But while there are taboos, there's no definitive list. Is there? Is that in one of the books that I need to read? Is there a definitive, this is male? Like, it feels like those are the kinds of books that would do the opposite of that.
Well, and I also feel...
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
I also feel that this is a topic we will discuss again
and
regularly.
Yeah.
Yes, we have discussed as our main topic, and we'll discuss again as a main topic, I think, semi-regularly.
Absolutely.
Because this is a topic that I know we and Serafina especially are very passionate about. And we kind of have a general idea of kind of some educational information that we can share in the future.
I adore Serafina.
She's
absolutely love
awesome.
her.
Yeah,
I want to hang out with her.
I want to say it was episode 5. I'm sure you can find it in the YouTube backlog. But Serafina with Michelle Ogrzalik, we spent an entire hour and a half really diving into these types of questions, and so I think that that's an interesting place to start. I hope that we have at least tiptoed around an answer to your question, even if we all are sort of sitting here going,
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I think it's only fair that there's no short answer. I never give short answers when people ask me things. Like when people ask me what's a continent, I'm not able to give a short answer. So it's fair that there's no short answer for what my gender is, if there's any gender I identify with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's...
And two things you mentioned that I like to just talk to mention. When you said by something, what about the ends and average? I forgot. Bimodal something.
Yeah, a bimodal bell curve. I mean, just type that into your Google image search and you will see what I'm talking about. I recognize that it's kind of a nerdy way of describing things and not terribly well suited to a pseudo-visual medium, but it's worth typing into your Google device and taking a look at, because it is a good way of describing it.
Yeah, to be fair, I use the word zucchini, which probably no one knows about, so...
I think we got it.
I think the person who needs to understand that understands that.
That reminded me that I have this Facebook page where I talk about asexuality mostly, and I talk a lot about gender there as well. And I try to abstract this gender idea as like a multi-dimensional graph.
Yep.
There are a lot of different components, and Serafina's presentation brings that out really clearly.
Yeah.
So I would again encourage you to check that out, because I think it's a much more thorough answer than we could ever give here.
Joule, you need to come to Austin, and I need to pick your brain.
Right?
Yeah. I'm curious. I want to know. I need to know more. But hopefully this conversation
helped.
Well, yeah, okay. I think it was. I'll look into the book you mentioned.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. It's terribly well written and super effective.
And for those, again, what was the name of the book?
How to Understand Your Gender by Meg John, MEG-JOHN. Meg John, I believe. Meg John Barker.
But can you tell us in your sexy voice?
Meg John Barker.
Oh, man, I got chills. All right.
That's not what I got. Well,
yeah, I really hope the book's good with it, because I've already asked about what being gender feels like, and like I feel subreddits and Telegram groups, and most people just say they found out they're neither male nor female and just go with genderqueer and don't look into it as deeply as I wish to. So that's why I called it. I want, like, again, a not short answer.
Yeah. It's a long journey if you choose to go on it, and it's a very noble one, and I think it can be really illuminating. So we wish you the best of luck as you're looking to figure that out. Remember, the games are made up. The points don't matter, and you'll never win, but you can enjoy yourself as you go.
And so maybe learn a bit about yourself. We wish you the
best of luck. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Joule.
That's great advice.
Thank you. That sounds like a terrible game.
where it's wins. Made up and the points don't matter?
Yeah, I mean, that's like that's like war
Jamie
games, right?
Freak.
The best way is not to play. I mean, I'm sorry. I was watching Deanna Torres in the live chat, who was making a really, really great point. Who had said that she got her undergrad in women's studies, and gender is just our attempt to categorize and doesn't matter any more than we let it. It's not a real thing, basically. And she goes on to say that gender is basically just how we express our personalities. So it's unique to each individual and doesn't need to be divided into labels. Also, she wants to point out that she doesn't think making more labels is the answer. And so, the fuck? How are we going to...
It's that circular sliding scale. There is no beginning, there is no end. It's just a big three-dimensional circular sliding scale.
Then I'm taking my ball and going home. All right.
Yeah, I mean, she's not wrong, and I certainly don't want to like categorically disagree, because I don't. I think that she's very right, and at the same time, I am somebody who's sweated over my adjectives, and I really value them, and so I can appreciate the desire to do away with them entirely. But I also think that I'm going to be attracted to like this amount of the gender spectrum and not this side of the gender spectrum, and that there is some value in being able to broadly allow people to categorize and identify, because a lot of people do find a lot of strength in having something that describes them and being able to find their people, being able to find people who identify the way that they do. So, you know, if we were going to Sim City from the ground up and build a completely new society, I think that there's a lot of weight to her argument, and I hesitate to disagree with it in any meaningful way. At the same time, I know that for myself, these words are important.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, the words were created for a reason to begin with, and it wasn't for hate. It was so that... Well, no, I'm talking about like way back when, as people were starting to try and differentiate,
between baby havers and baby not havers.
Yeah.
Because if we go back to like the archaic foundations of language, and before we're getting into societal institutional control,
right? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like way before,
domination,
right?
And, you know.
Yeah, the words help communicate ideas and thoughts, and to be able to categorize something and differentiate it from the rest. I think it just maybe got taken a little too far in the gender area.
Well, yeah, we started subjugating women so that men could pass down their lineage to the right person. It's very complicated, and there's a ton of bullshit along the road. But here we are now in 2018 trying to enjoy our lives and make the best of it.
Yeah, you make a very good point too. Maybe I'm just going to shut up about it, because that's going to take the entire show.
Yeah.
So what's the next?
You got some stuff to think about.
Yeah.